My name is Vanessa Duchesne, and the name of my film is Alone. It is a post apocalyptic film, and I chose to give it a more lonely feel, hence the name, um, just because I felt like that would add to the overall setting, the overall, everything that was happening in the world that I kind of created in my mind for it. How the main character is on her own, and there isn't you don't ever see anybody else in the film except for at the end, where that's just, well, a mystery that you're supposed to find out if it was, a full film. But it was mostly inspired by I Am Legend, since he was also, like, Will Smith's character was also alone in his film, and I took from that, seeing how he was going about his day-to-day life, um, on his own with his dog. I felt like it worked well for that movie, and I kind of wanted to recreate it in my own way. Another big inspiration of mine was the Last of Us games, both of them. I liked the way that they're also taking place in their own post-apocalyptic world, and I liked seeing how when you play this game, or these games, you are rummaging through your own bag and trying to, use what you have and collecting little supplies that you see around the world. And I just thought that that part would make sense if you were just, I guess traveling on your own. And although you don't know what the main character is doing in my own film, I felt like that would make sense in this idea. Another another good inspiration of mine was, surprisingly, Guardians of the Galaxy. Specifically the scene at the very beginning where he is walking and dancing. Yeah. I liked the way that it was just music was turned on, even though it was like with his radio, and mine was definitely not that way. But I liked the way he just turned on the music and he was just walking and dancing, and it was, just going, again, like with I Am Legend, just going about his life and doing what he needed to do. And that was just, I felt, a creative way of bringing in, like, a character, like introducing them. And another specific area of that scene was at the very end, when he just rolls the orb, and when, like, it just, as soon as a sound is made, the music stops. And I tried to do something similar in my film, when a little step, or, like a little rummaging sound was heard, and the music just stopped there. The original plan was actually quite different from what I ended up doing. I originally wanted to keep my character, still one character. I was considering another character, but I was feeling the idea of one character still. And so that stayed consistent. But it was going to be in an enclosed space, and I was going to have some kind of maybe sound coming from, like, a door, like almost like they're in a closet or something similar to that. And I guess I really took inspiration from The Walking Dead show, games, and comics. All three were big inspirations. And specifically, I did think of this specific scene where in believe the second Walking Dead game, Clementine is the main character is in some kind of closet with this other guy, but it was my idea was going to be a little bit different from that, but when I was planning it out, I did think of that scene and the way that there's like their own zombies were outside, even though it is not clarified in mine whether they're zombies or not. I wanted to leave that up for interpretation, leave that up for like, whatever that sound might have been at the end. But anyway, I wanted my character to be in an enclosed space like that with maybe some kind of like sound outside, a little scary. But I also was considering maybe doing flashes from that, like which would be the present, to the past, where maybe she's having a conversation with somebody else, somebody important to them, and I once again thought that would be an interesting idea, but like almost like The Notebook, but not fully. As in like the present day is being shown, but it keeps flashing back towards the past, the relationship. But I don't think it would have been that kind of relationship if I were flashing into the past. Probably like more like a father figure. Yeah, like a parental figure, maybe even like a sibling or somebody important, like familiar. But I was trying to find a good spot to film that kind of thing, but I couldn't find anywhere that I felt worked well with my idea. I didn't find any spot that I felt like I could film and that would work out well. I also, in my mind, for that scene, there would be a door. And I couldn't find a spot with a door that I liked. Which sounds odd, but I really just wanted a good door. And I couldn't find a good door. So, what I ended up doing is well, as you could see, I did all my project outside. And it was very openly outside. And I chose to change the pretty much most of what was going to happen and how I was going to show that it was post-apocalyptic, by changing where I was going to shoot, by changing what I was going to have the character do. And I also thought about my original idea and thought maybe not enough will be going on. And in this way, at least you're seeing what the character goes through on a day-to-day basis and how they live their life and, all that stuff. And it switches from that montage to the pretty much the most dramatic part of the film, where the music cuts and you can tell that there's something wrong, and just little things like that. And I really wanted to show how afraid it could, like, that character could be, because I felt like otherwise, if I didn't add in that specific ending, I guess, to the beginning scene, the opening scene, that it could just be mistaken for something completely different. Like, it didn't felt very apocalyptic enough, in my opinion, without it. I felt like there was nothing interesting to it. It would have just been a montage. And I chose to open up the whole scene with that shot of the moon, no music, anything, because one, I looked up, like, I was in the car one night and I looked up and I saw the moon, and I was like, that looks really good. And I was like, I feel like I could do something with that. And so I did. And I was like, well, I liked the mistiness where the moon was, and I liked how dark it looked. And I felt like it kind of opened up the scene better than if I had just started right into where the main character comes in and is walking. Like, I felt like that would have been a really poor decision, in my opinion. But I'm glad I did it, and I liked the way that the montage came out and how it was just different, like little things, like normal things for that character that could just, kind of show much more than what they were. Which actually brings me to my next point. Little detailings that I made throughout the film. I like that I added in that specific shot at the end where the character grabs the knife, like holds onto the knife in their pocket. I felt like that brought attention to a very small detail in the costuming and in the world, and as well as how the flashlight throughout the whole thing was always white. The light was white, and at the end, when it's shining on the notebook, it is red. And I felt like that was a little dramatic, but that's what I was going for. And I just liked how it gave out a different, a little bit more blunt, and I guess it pointed out how something went wrong. And I felt like it was a good way of ending the scene without breaking away from what I was trying to do the whole film, which was to keep it all like the whole opening scene, without talking. I wanted the whole scene to have no talking. Yes, there was the background noise, the crickets and the bugs and the music, and the little the sound that broke away from the music and going into the ending of the scene. But I didn't want there to be any talking because I feel like it would take away from it. I liked how it was just completely silent. I don't think anything needed to be said. I think it actually complemented it very well. Similarly to how one would pick to make a movie in black and white instead of in color to complement the overall movie. I felt like that worked well. Another big thing that I feel like I'm proud of is the way that I dressed the character. I liked the costuming, I liked the props, I liked how I was able to bring alive this character, and I liked how just in the costuming alone so much was portrayed. Just a ugly green jean jacket with unbuttoned cuffs and black capri cargo pants and the broken shoes. I am glad that I was able to put my broken shoes to use, and my long socks that weren't positioned properly, the stained shirt, and just the messy hair and the bun. And because I feel like in a apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic world, you would have your hair up and it wouldn't look nice. So And the backpack, I like that I could find a very plain, regular backpack that could suit the rest of it well and all overall complement it very well. I liked how that brought more attention to the character being post apocalyptic and how it isn't just, it helps to inform the audience about how this isn't taking place in a regular world. It is different. And the the food, like the ramen and the canned chili beans, the knife, the flashlight, and the notebook helps to do that as well. Um, and they were all just regular things I found around my own house that felt like I could put to good use. And especially the flashlight, that really came in handy, especially with the lighting. I like that I could do more with it, like just use it for other purposes other than just, oh look, I have a flashlight in my pocket. I liked how it's dark outside. It would make sense that I have a flashlight, and if I don't have enough light around me, at least the flashlight will help direct the audience's eye to something, or bring more light to the character. And I felt like the food made sense for the montage because it's, you would eat very like stale ramen and canned cold gross beans, and yeah. And I like how the knife came in handy with opening the pack of ramen, which by the way, I really couldn't open the pack of ramen. And I like how I was able to use it to also help add to the drama of the end of the whole scene. I felt like that knife, even though I didn't really have to show it much or like use it in a violent way, helped to portray much more than it would have if I did do that. And the notebook, I felt, was just, I don't know, a nice little add-on to it because, maybe during their day-to-day practices, the main character is journaling and just, finding something to entertain themselves with. The whole filming process was actually quite interesting. My little brother helped me film a lot of the scenes, with the exception, like any scene that I am seen in, I obviously did not film. And the only two scenes that I myself had to film were, well, actually three, were the moon at the beginning, the camera looking from the ground to the tree above, and the very last shot of the flashlight flashing red on the notebook. Otherwise, props to Matthew. He helped me to film the majority of the film, of the overall project, and I would just direct him to position the camera a certain way, and even if I was in the shot, I would just have to guess, like not guess, but as I looked at my own phone in his hands, see where I would be, where he was standing. Another key thing was the environment around us. It was dark outside. It of course didn't have plenty of lighting. I would try to use the flashlight to help out with that a little bit, or the little spotlights around the neighborhood to help illuminate certain scenes. But obviously some scenes were a little darker than others, especially since the more foresty areas that I wanted to use don't have as many spotlights near them. So some of those scenes are much darker, like shots. I keep saying scenes. Shots are much darker, like the end of the film, where that part is just like almost completely dark because that was the most foresty area that I wanted to use, and all I had to help me out with that was my flashlight. But overall, I felt like it still ended up working out well enough. With the editing, I used iMovie, like I am now, and I just compiled all the good shots that I found and added the appropriate transitions, like the fade that I used to go from looking up at the tree to just the notebook with the red light. I did that specifically because I don't know, I feel like it, again, added to the more dramatic feel. I added the music by using my sister's phone to play it aloud, and I used the voiceover option on iMovie, and I just press play, and then I just hope for the best. I felt like that helped add to the overall montage and not make it feel so boring and not as weird with all the sounds coming everywhere. I feel like it just like added it all together. It wasn't just a bunch of different clips of random stuff. It was now all supposed to be with each other. And the extra sound that I added right before my character looks up in like almost confusion and like on guard, that was just a sound effect again on iMovie that I think it was like footstep, and I just made it like really short and sweet, and I just again hope that it sounded alright. And I feel like it actually worked well, and it was timed, pretty decently. And I'm glad that it again just tied it all together a little bit. I do wish that I had spent more time on the filming and maybe used my flashlight and any lighting around me better to get better shots, and maybe done even more shots and to maybe fill it up a bit more and to get really the best ones. There were a few that I wanted to add to the montage, but I just didn't feel it didn't really work. I didn't really feel like they worked well. But if I had the opportunity, again, I think I would have added some more little things like that to make it more complete. I also wish that I had spent more time focusing on that ending than any other little piece, because I feel like that, like the ending could have used a bit more work. I felt like it looked a little rushed, and I felt like it was very mediocre. I didn't really feel like it was as I feel like it was just a little bit I felt like it didn't really give off a very post-apocalyptic, like not enough at least, feel to it. I feel like it just looks like it was more like coming out of like a thriller or something, and that's not what I was going for, obviously. And the last thing that I feel like I could have done a little bit better was the acting, especially the facial expressions. That was definitely a highlight of my year, and maybe if I have to act in something like this again, maybe I will attempt to do some better facial expressions and maybe like do more with my body language, especially since the movie was done without any speech and any dialogue. But overall, I'm glad that it turned out well, and I hope it was enjoyable.